Nation. You're now listening to the most opinionated, the most exciting, the most son of a Schmidt. You guys actually do something useful here, right? Like, is anything you do even beneficial to someone? Whatever. Now to the show that literally has tens, that's right, tens of followers. The show that brings the Ozone Radio Network to levels of mediocrity that only Michigan fans would know. This is the Sons of Schmidt, starring Mike Meals and Brandon Zimmerman on the Ozone Radio Network.
Welcome back, Buckeye Nation. This is the Sons of Schmidt podcast. This is season 3, episode 13. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's something big this weekend. It's like a big meeting of two groups of people that don't particularly care for each other. I'm told there's a little bit of hatred. It is the game.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Ozone beat writers and the Hazen Cannon for Friday.
Oh, yes, that is. So as you just heard him chime in there's my co-host, Brandon Zimmerman. This is your host, Mike Meals. We are the Sons of Schmidt. What's going on, Brandon? How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good. Head back to Ohio tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
For those of you that are seeing this on the video, I just literally punched myself in the mouth with my microphone, so don't mind that. I was adjusting my shirt sleeve. So first things first, let me go ahead and get this out here. I was talking about this just now. I've mentioned it the last couple weeks. What we are trying to do, something we've been working on all season, we are working towards actually getting the video of the podcast put up also. So we're trying a little something different, so you get to see our ugly mugs and you'll get to see what we're going through here and get to listen to the show that way. So when you hear me say something like that, that's what I'm referring to. So go watch the video. You'll see the microphone literally bust me in my lower lip. Now, the other important thing that we have going for you here is, Brandon, we started every week. I know we're recording a little bit early because of the trips back home. We're both going to be in Columbus. We're both going to be at we're getting together with all the other writers from Hazen Cannon and the Ozone this week. So there's going to be some stuff there. We kind of led into that last week. But the most important thing, even early in this week as we're recording, what are you drinking, my brother? What is in your glass?
Oh, tonight I finished off this one, this Russell's Reserve. It's a 10-year, so it's okay. It's the one I had like a few weeks ago, and yeah, it's not too bad. What about you, buddy? Let me guess.
Go ahead.
A Shine.
Well, yeah, man, we're 2-0 on this stuff, so yeah. That's what I've got right there. I mean, this is it's good. I mean, we're, like I said, we're recording obviously earlier because of editing time and travel time. So it's changed a little bit of stuff up, but the fact that I'm able to sit here, and I know it's a little iced out because I like mine in on ice, but in my Ohio State Carmen, Ohio Whiskey Rocks tumbler here, and man, this stuff, it's ungodly smooth. So I might have to throw some of this in the suitcase when I come up. So
yeah. Well, I do got two things.
One, go ahead.
It's cool we're doing the video thing, but man, like, y'all are going to see how much I really don't freaking pay attention to what's going on. Like, I just kind of sit there and I'm playing with my phone or doing something, and then like I hear Mikey kind of throw something towards me, and I just like ramble until I think I answered the question. So please don't call me out too much on it. And two,
like that,
like that. I forgot to write down what my second one was. But yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing that you'll see is as we get going and the off season rolls around, obviously, and we get into bowl weeks and whatnot. I actually have behind my computer where I record is actually the television, where I mentioned once or twice that I've had things on. So I'll do the same. I'll just randomly be lost. So this will be somewhat entertaining, and you'll get to see how dumb we are. I think you remember number 2 now?
I came back around. Number 2, like Mike mentioned, we normally record on Tuesday nights to release on Thursday. we're recording right now Sunday afternoon. That it's still going to come out on Thursday. So like, don't kill us too much if like some shit goes down between now and Thursday, and we're pretty outdated on some stuff. Please, it hurts my heart.
Yeah, exactly. But the good news is you're going to have all day Thursday, with it being the holiday, to sit around and watch the video potentially and listen to us ramble on about how stupid we actually are. So getting into everything, I know obviously because of that, the college football playoff rankings are not out, but we kind of touch on all this right here in this segment. So my first question for you is, A, do you give a shit yet? I know they'll be released later this week. I fully expect UCF to jump Ohio State. Not that I think UCF would necessarily beat Ohio State, but they're riding off the big win over Cincinnati, and Ohio State was not the most impressive against Maryland. So those are going to play in. But the real question is if Ohio State wins and wins out, do we still think they're in? And what do you see happening that would keep them from getting in or not getting in if they do win out, or, whatever? What's their progression for the season for making the playoffs?
No, I mean, as I've said every week, it's still at the point where I don't care because, like we're still early enough that like teams still have to win. Like we don't know what's going to happen these next 2 weeks. You've got the rivalry weekend games coming up. Then you've got the conference championship games coming up. So, I mean, there's going to be some teams that lose, and like it does not matter unless Ohio State wins. So, I don't think UCF will jump Ohio State. I think, kind of mentioned it. We were texting about it earlier about how the committee kind of right now seems like they're more concerned with like setting up matchups as like product advertising type of thing and ranking a few teams higher than they probably should be to set up like top 10 matchups. So, I mean, I honestly would not be surprised if Ohio State came out Tuesday night and they were ranked as high as number 7, just to kind of, like the committee knows that no matter who loses is going to drop down. So it really doesn't hurt them to move the Buckeyes up and say, oh, for the college football playoffs, we got number 4 versus number 7, and it just sounds better than 4 versus 10 or 4 versus 11, whatever they do with the Buckeyes. Also, it would be kind of a dangerous precedent after like last week, Ohio State went on the road and beat a top 20 team by 20 points, and then they didn't move at all. And then this week, UCF beats a pretty weak top 25 team at home, at their home, and jumps a team. It just would be a weird kind of precedent. But like I said, though, it doesn't matter. Like I don't care if they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or anything. It just, if they don't win, it doesn't matter. So that's all I care about.
All right, that works for me. I mean, I said, I think we're a little bit varied on our opinion that UCF jumps, but the rest of that, I mean, that's right where I'm at too. So,
and I don't know if I mentioned it on the show, but I mentioned to you, I still think like if everything plays out right now the way we think it is, like let's say out in the Pac-12, Washington State wins and they've got 1 loss. Oklahoma wins the Big 12 and they got 1 loss. Ohio State wins the Big 10 and they've got 1 loss. I would not be shocked at all if the committee and all of their chicken shit glory put in UCF into that 4th spot, just because UCF will not have lost in over 2 years at that point, and it saves them from having to decide between Pac-12, Big 12, and Big 10 champion, which would actually be a tough decision, and they don't really like to do that too much. So I would not be shocked if that happens.
Yeah, it very well could play out that Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Washington State are all on the outside looking in, with Notre Dame going undefeated, and then obviously Clemson and Alabama. So it kind of would play right into the chaos theory there. And, I've said it before, I don't think right now the way Ohio State's playing, they could knock off Alabama. But, the other thing you got to take into consideration is you're going to give Urban Meyer a month and a couple weeks to prepare for that game if that comes to play. So I like those chances better at that point. But the way they're playing right now, I just don't see it happening. But, whatever, it's going to be what it's going to be. Just take care of Michigan and if that happens, then you got to take care of Northwestern and let the cards fall where they may. So, all right, man. So anything else real quick before we take our first break?
Nope. Let's jump into it.
All right, brother. We will pause right here. We come back. We're going to look at Maryland.
This is the Ozone Radio Network, a Hayes and Cannon production. For the latest episodes of all your favorite podcasts covering Buckeye Nation, look for the Ozone Radio Network on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and Speaker. You can also find the latest episodes by clicking on the Hayes and Cannon tab at theozone.net. Once again, here are the Sons of Schmidt.
All right, Brandon. So, as I mentioned before the break here, Ohio State was not exactly the most impressive overall team in their beatdown of Maryland at 52-51. They had to go to overtime. Now, the game was obviously in College Park. It was a heart-stopping ending to that game. We talked about at the end of last week's show that Ohio State, if they came into the game and they're looking ahead to Michigan and Maryland comes out and punches them in the mouth, that this game would be a lot closer. I don't think either of us necessarily thought that Ohio State really had a shot to lose until the game actually started. And then, there are times where it starts to creep into your head a little bit more. But obviously Maryland came out and just punched Ohio State in the mouth multiple times. First drive, huge touchdown run. A couple more times they had massive chunk plays. The game goes to overtime, and obviously, Maryland goes for two, passes wide. But, as some people have pointed out, and I know it's been shared on Twitter, actually, if that pass would have been completed, there should have been an ineligible man downfield penalty thrown against Maryland anyways. But what's your initial talk and thought on the Maryland-Ohio State game?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely frustrating for that one. It was weird, though, and I, even in our text conversations with, like, groups and stuff, that, like, I never, no matter how bad it looked, I never really felt concerned with Ohio State winning the game. I was fairly confident, even when they were down by a couple scores there, and it just, I don't know, it just felt like Ohio State could win that at any point, but it obviously didn't turn out to be that way. So maybe I should have been a little more worried than I actually was. I think early on we saw a lot of lackadaisical type of stuff. I mean, there was some stuff that I have no idea what was going on early. Like, I mean, I still can't even fathom what Johnny Dixon was doing on that first kickoff return, where it was like the little pooch kick. I mean, he just like stopped, and it was just a weird situation all around. So that was early on. There was just Damon Arnett absolutely made me irate on that first touchdown run. Not only did he get baited inside and, didn't seal the outside there so that they could stop that run, but like, I think I texted it to you. I mean, Damon Arnett is supposedly like the second fastest person on that team, second or third, based off, with Kendall Sheffield and Paris Campbell. I mean, like, he's supposed to be one of the fastest people. And not only did he let that running back run past him, but then he didn't even finish within 30 yards of that running back, so that there was no effort after he screwed up. So, I mean, it just was frustrating to me. I mean, I'm not sure Damon Arnett could have caught him from behind coming from a stop, and changing the direction towards a speedy running back. But just the fact that, like, you can see Tough Borland's slow ass, hustling downfield, running as fast as he can. And Damon Arnett obviously was not given any effort to chasing him down. So those two plays kind of pissed me off from the beginning. And I think it kind of did the same thing to Urban Meyer. And that's why we saw a very animated Urban Meyer early on. And, a lot of just hair grabbing and bent over and stuff. And I know, like, someone at one point told us that he's sick and all this stuff, and he talks about his brain stuff, but like it's starting to get old. And not every reaction from Urban Meyer on the sideline is a sign of his brain about to explode. Like, he is a very animated head coach. He's always been that way. He gets into the games, and you want that from a coach. I mean, would you rather someone like Greg Schiano as your head coach that like everything's burning around him and he doesn't show any emotion at all? I would say something about Bill Davis too, but like, I've never seen him during a game, so I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, so it was a lot of frustration early on. I think ultimately they got things together.
Before you go any further, I saw a picture of Bill Davis this weekend, and it was the first time I've ever seen Bill Davis. If you would have asked me 2 days ago what he looked like, I couldn't have even give you a vague description of what he looked like. So
yeah, I never knew he was Asian until it was like yesterday. I saw a picture of him.
Yeah, and he has like that 3-foot fro that's gold, and yeah, exactly. Like, I was dumbfounded.
Yeah,
jackass.
Yeah, so I mean, it started to settle down. It didn't seem like it, but I mean, Ohio State offensively definitely got into a rhythm. This is kind of the offense that we expected a little more. J.K. Dobbins did not have a lot of room. There weren't as many big runs as I kind of expected. But I also kind of expected Mike Weber to be able to wear down, because he's more of that wear down type of back, the power back that can kind of make the defensive line hurt. And J.K. Dobbins comes in and moves around. So J.K. Dobbins had a great game. I mean, he was over 200 yards, and what do you have, like almost 40 carries, or was he over 40 carries, something like that? He was at 37
carries for 203.
Yeah. So, like, he did good. Dwayne Haskins had his best game in a while, but like I said last week, I'm not shocked his stats were down the past couple weeks, and it doesn't mean Dwayne Haskins suddenly sucks. Like, they were focusing on getting that run game going, and that's all that they cared about these past couple weeks, and it paid off a little bit. I mean, the offensive line showed a little aggression. Speaking of offensive line, like, I was ready to get in a fight with Michael Jordan there for a while. I've been noticing it more and more lately, and maybe he's done it all season, or I don't know what's going on, but it just seems like every snap he does is like a split second later than what it is supposed to be. And that's why you see Isaiah Prince like false start every snap. Like, I don't know how he doesn't get a false start every freaking snap, because like he's coming out of his stance like before the ball even comes, and then you had that one where like false start on everybody except for the center. I mean, it's just, and even like, I think Luke Farrell really struggles with it, and it's been like week after week. It seems like Luke Farrell has multiple false starts because Michael Jordan just hangs on to that ball for a split second too long, and you can kind of get away with it at the tackles, apparently, but like tight ends and stuff, when you're, that focused on as a receiver, they're going to jump on you a little bit more. So I don't know. They got to fix that with Michael Jordan. Otherwise, that's going to cause some problems. And I don't even know if they will at this point. I mean, and we've been saying it for weeks. We wish that Michael Jordan would just slide back to guard, especially with Brady Taylor healthy, or Josh Myers, or, I mean, at this point, as much as Pridgeon is struggling at left guard, and as much as Michael Jordan is struggling snapping the ball, I think sliding him back to guard and whoever at center would be an immediate upgrade for that offensive line. So I know they don't want to make a lot of changes this late in the game, especially with offensive linemen, but I mean, I think Michigan's going to have some fun with that offensive line the way it's set up right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Michigan has a lot of talent, so on their defensive line. So it's going to be a tough test. But, I put in the notes here when we sent them out, but, J.K. Dobbins and Dwayne Haskins, between the two of them, they had 56 rushes, I think, for the team total, right, for like 283 yards. I was trying to remember what my note said.
52
carries.
52 rushes.
Okay. Yeah.
262 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Okay, yeah. So it was the J.K. Haskins show this week, on the ground.
Yeah.
4 touchdowns running the ball. So definitely was a shock. And the whole, is Mike Weber suspended? Is Mike Weber hurt? Nobody knows. And the spokesman coming out and saying that it was no suspension and he wasn't injured. And then somewhere around the time that J.K. Dobbins had about his 26th carry, all of a sudden Mike Weber was hurt, and it kind of threw us all off. Definitely made a change. But the one thing I wanted to say, and I mentioned this to you guys, but I was really impressed with the fact that Ohio State was willing to stay with the running game, with those guys. And, you saw it after a while. Even J.K. Dobbins started to wear down the Maryland defense. He started getting a little bit bigger chunk yards. He started getting a little more explosiveness when he went through the line. So I was really impressed with that. That really goes to show you how nice it was having both of those backs all season because they're both fresh. So that definitely helped out. Was a little surprised with some of the Dwayne Haskins runs, although I wonder if that wasn't more of a just kind of has to do it because Weber was out and the coaches knew it and nobody else did, or if it's a, hey, let's mess around with Michigan here and make them remember that Dwayne Haskins can run the ball and just put that just a little bit more of a wrinkle into their, practice time that they have to dedicate to the Ohio State offense. So
I don't think it was either of those. Do you know what I think it was?
What's that?
I think that was called Dwayne Haskins preserving his own game time. Like, he started to get pulled in those short yardage situations. He was hesitant to run the ball. It's amazing what can happen when you throw Tate Martell or your backup into the mix and start giving them play time. I think that was a wake-up call for Dwayne Haskins. I think that kind of forced Dwayne Haskins to be like, oh shit, I've got to start running the ball. Because a lot of those were like the read option type of things that in, the 9 games past, he's just handed that off. I mean, he can say that he's doing a read option all he wants, but when you're handing the ball off to the running back who's running into like 7 different guys, you're not reading shit. So I think this week he kind of realized after Tate Martell played so much last week that, look, you know what, I've got to start doing this. And I think it worked. I mean, he's never going to be the JT Barrett type. But what we saw Saturday is what we saw last year against Michigan. And that's what we kind of expect this year. I don't expect him to run 15 times most games, you're going to have that here and there. But it's just not going to happen every time.
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a surprise. I know one of the other things that kind of shocked us, and this is the best part about doing these shows with the recording, is now those of you guys that are seeing video get to see someone else pop in here. But one of the other things that definitely surprised me, and I was rather impressed with, because it didn't feel like it was going this way, but Dwayne Haskins ended that game with 405 yards passing, 28 of 38. He was 73%, almost 74% completions, 3 touchdowns. That gives him 6 for the game that he's accountable for. Only 1 interception. He did run the ball a lot more than what we're used to. So it was easily, in my mind, Haskins' best game offensively all around. I know his numbers weren't as high as the Purdue game or whatever, but 73% of his passes are complete. He still has 400 yards. He has 2 wide receivers that go over 100 yards apiece. And let's be realistic. When the game mattered, Dwayne Haskins took control of the game, and he won that game for Ohio State. Now, obviously, the stats are there. Haskins had a good game, right? So the question that I have for you, and I don't know if you'd heard this. This is just some rumblings that I had heard. But I heard this last week, Haskins stood up in the locker room and told his guys that they will not lose another game this season. He was taking this team on, and he was going to run this thing, and he was going to carry them. And it looked like he was doing that on Saturday. It looked like he finally took that leadership role. Had you heard anything about that, and what are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on Haskins' play overall?
No, I mean, I hadn't heard anything. That's literally the first time that I've heard that. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he did seemed to step up a lot more this game and be more of a leader than we've seen in games past. I do think, like, all around, this was his best game. I feel like he was making some good throws, but I feel like he's been making good throws the past couple of weeks. I know people have been giving him a hard time and stuff, but I mean, Dwayne Haskins is really starting to come into his own. And you got to think, this is only his 10th start this past Saturday. I mean, things are only going to get better. Whether he leaves for the NFL or not, I mean, I think Dwayne Haskins, no matter what, the rest of this season is going to put up some pretty good numbers, especially if he keeps on adding to the running attack. Because if you can get him just getting those little, 5-yard pops that just keep the defense off balance just a little bit, that opens up J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber quite a bit. And I think Ohio State would have been able to run even more. They would have had even bigger running plays on Saturday if they did have Mike Weber and they were able to kind of balance out things a little bit. I mean, even when you saw McCall go in there, I mean, he only finished, I think, with like 2 carries. But I think he had a few more that were like called back for like holdings and stuff. But it just seemed like he was able to be that change of pace guy that Mike Weber normally would have been, without the ability to break tackles and stuff as much as Mike Weber. So I think Dwayne Haskins, this was like the perfect game for him leading into this Saturday. Gives him confidence. I think it gave J.K. Dobbins confidence. I think it gave the offensive line a little bit of confidence. But are they going to be able to outscore however many points their defense gives up?
Well, that's a good transition because let's be realistic. The defense was historically bad on Saturday. The good news is they held Maryland to 340 yards rushing. That's good, right? No? Yes? Okay. McFarland went 21 for 298. So, hey, they didn't set that most yardage against Ohio State record. He did average 14.2 yards per carry, which is obviously less than ideal. Just multiple big plays. It seemed like every time that Maryland would line up, they'd motion a guy from left to right, leave the left side with nothing there on the weak side, and there was nobody home for Ohio State, and McFarland was just gone. The good news is Pigram only had 196 yards rushing, so if you're looking for any kind of a silver lining, I guess that would technically be it. But obviously the defense was far from ideal against a much lesser opponent than who's on the schedule this weekend. But what was your thought on the defense? And try to not be completely murder's row here, because I know there was enough shit that it just wasn't pretty.
I actually think like the defense made strides during the game. Like, it's hard to say that, but they did. I mean, like the first quarter, they just came out. And it's hard to say they got torched, but it was because of big plays, like I don't know, like it's like they got torched, but it's hard to really say how bad the defense was because it was like really only 3 plays that led to a touchdowns, and so like they may have played good the other time, but you don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was rough, but like it was a good sign. I'm going to go ahead and give them some credit here before I rail on them too much, that over the final 3 quarters, they only gave up a little over 300 yards. That's about 100 yards per quarter. The second half, they only gave up 176 yards. I mean, like, compared to where they were, I mean, like, if you just look at where they were first quarter, they kind of got better and better. And like I said, it's because they cut down on the big plays. They didn't necessarily stop Maryland as much. I mean, it just took up more clock to kind of get stuff. And then Ohio State was scoring too. So, I mean, yardage wise, it looked like they got better. Also, you got to factor in Draymond Jones missing part of that first half. Draymond Jones is just such a presence that, like, he is. I'm going to go with him being the one guy on defense that Ohio State needs the most. Like, if Draymond Jones goes out with a injury, that whole defense is going to be garbage, even more than what they already are. So I'll kind of work my way back, I thought Chase Young played another great game. I'm not even sure what his stats were, but it's another one like what we talked about. Let's see, Chase Young, 3 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Nothing big there, but I thought just like the week prior, Chase Young played a great game. Chase Young was putting pressure on, even if he didn't get to hit the quarterback, but he was causing quarterbacks to kind of roll out. He was causing Pigrom to adjust his throws to kind of make plays on the run type of thing. So I thought Chase Young played good. Draymond Jones, even with missing some time, played a great game. 4 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack. We'll go back to the linebackers who were just absolute garbage. I mean, there's just no way around that one. I mean, and I even made a joke about it, and even looking at stats, I know it's going to wind up being right, but like Tough Borland, I was like, oh yeah, you know, this was after like the 7th 50-yard run. I was like, oh yeah, but Tough Borland will still grade out as a champion. And I mean, he finished with 8 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and a sack. And like that looks like good stats, but if you're watching the game, like Tough Borland, when your middle linebacker is supposed to be that guy that cleans up everything in the middle. Like there should be no running towards him, no running up the gut. But like you watch Tough Borland and he just picks the wrong gap time after time again, and then he doesn't have.
It's not just the wrong gap. There are many times where there would be like a stretch play, and instead of taking on and moving down the line, he's trying to get underneath, and then he's automatically chasing.
Yep, and he's like not quick enough at all to chase down anybody. I mean, like Maryland's handing off their fullback, and he's not able to chase him down. So I think like for the past couple of years, I feel like I've been railing on Terry McLaurin for a while, and I've laid off of that. Terry McLaurin is been a badass this year. So I'm done with him. He's grown into his role. Ohio State wide receiver group would not be where they're at right now without him. Damon Arnett's been in my targets quite a bit, and he always will be. Like, I just don't think Damon Arnett's a good cornerback at all. He started to become a good nickelback, and then for some reason Ohio State moved him outside, and he's struggled every time since. So I really I have said it before earlier this year that Damon Arnett should be the nickelback. I will take my chances with Sean Wade outside more than Damon Arnett. But now I think it's Tough Borland. Like, Tough Borland is such a weak link on this team. And I know Baron Browning was out, and he's been out the past 2 weeks, but even if Baron Browning was healthy, Tough Borland's ass would have been the one in there trying to chase down guys and not being able to do it. So Pete Werner too. Pete Werner's another guy. I feel like he's been struggling since week 1. He's just not big. He's not fast. He's not able to get off blocks. He doesn't take the right hole. So just like Michael Jordan at center, I think Ohio State has a major problem with Tough Borland and Pete Werner. And apparently I'm like racist or something too, because someone on Twitter, when I said that, like they need to move them out, their comment was, oh, so just say it. It's the slow white guys or something. Whatever, dude. But yeah, so I think there's changes that need to be made there, whether it's Baron Browning getting a chance at middle linebacker, Baron Browning getting a chance outside, Justin Hilliard, Keandre Jones, Dante Booker, Terjada Mitchell. Like, somebody needs to get a chance. And I feel like we're too late into the season, and we're going to see Tough Borland and Pete Werner on Saturday. There's no doubt in my mind. But I think Michigan's going to get their asses.
All right. Well, the one thing that I want to put out here before we quickly go to the over-unders and we take our pause for looking forward to Michigan, multiple times in this game, there were a lot of people that wanted to rail on Brandon White and missed tackles and bad plays. There was one, it was, I think, the second touchdown that Maryland had. Brandon White missed a tackle, and the guy was off to the races, and everybody wanted to go and rail on him because, well, he's supposed to be such a great tackler. And you guys, he was the only person in that line of defense. There is no reason whatsoever that the first contact that the running back makes is with your safety 8 yards off the ball. Your defensive line, your linebackers, they're the ones that are supposed to clog that up. He's just there as the last line of defense to help clean shit up. So those of you that wanted to rail on him this week, that was just beyond stupid. White is a really good player. He's demonstrated that the last couple of weeks. And I thought, actually, I know a lot of people don't want to agree with me with this, but I thought he played a really good game. So I like seeing White out there right now.
Well, and on that play too, I mean, like, he was running up, he was within like 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And my question is this, like, who the hell, or why was there no one else even there to clean up afterwards? Like, Brandon White missed the tackle. There's no doubt about that, but he slowed him down. I mean, it caused McFarland to slow down. How was there no one else even around after he slowed him down? And that goes back to what we talked about a few weeks ago, is one of the things missing from this defense is that gang tackling type of mentality. You need, I mean, it's almost like they see one person going for the tackle, like, all right, he's got him. But, like, dudes, they don't have him. So go back to what we saw like a few years ago, where, like, no matter what play it was, you saw 6 or 7 Buckeyes swarming them and tackling.
Well, and that came back to bite Ohio State later in the game. I think it was Maryland's last touchdown. If you watch that on the one fumble, like Draymond Jones, I think it was, on the one shot they shot from the sideline, there was, the tackle's going on and the ball comes down, like they're already letting up, like nobody's rushing to get around there. And all of a sudden the ball comes out and then everybody's got to kick it back up. Well, Maryland hadn't stopped, and they're the ones that recover the ball then. Yeah. And, so that's just another one of those things that would aid in the turnover battle and everything. So
that was the one where my boy Tough Borland, like, just plopped on it instead of picking up the ball, and it bounced out.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. All right, man. So looking at the keys of the game, we had them picked out last week. Haskins, 60% completion was needed to win. Obviously, at 74% of his passes were caught, so that was over. The rushing yards, we had it set at 150. I was really impressed with this one. J.K. Dobbins himself goes for 203. The team gets 283. That's the dedication that Ohio State needs to the rushing game, and I was really happy that they stuck with it and were able to grind that out. I mean, that's building confidence for the O-line, and obviously that's going to make J.K. Weber, better for this coming week. So the two of those guys are going to be on it. The next one we had was any wide receiver getting 2 touchdown catches. Ohio State had 3 guys all get a single touchdown catch, and I'll take that all day. Defensive line, the over-under was set at 2 sacks. This one was actually kind of funny. I put this in the notes. I don't know if you saw this, but there were 2 that they were credited for, and I kind of chuckled because somewhere there was a mix-up in the stat line, because on the site where we get our official stats from, they actually accredited J.K. Dobbins with a sack also, but Chase Young was there, so I was a little confused by that one, but I got a good laugh out of that. Yeah. And then the defense for 3 turnovers, we both kind of took the under here. There was 1 fumble recovery, and that was all that Ohio State managed to do. So, look, man, a win is a win, a conference division win on the road the week before you play in the game. It wasn't pretty. It will never, ever pass the eye test looking like that. But obviously Ohio State comes out of College Park with the win. Any last thoughts on Maryland before we send this one off to the books and get over the Turtles for the year?
No, I mean, it was a good sign to see Ohio State put up almost 700 yards of total offense, but, like, this is a game that you want to forget about. I hope we never see that defense ever again.
Absolutely. So, all right, man, we're going to go ahead and take our pause. We come back after we hear how bad Michigan sucks. We'll look ahead to the game, and we'll start doing that breakdown.
Suck.
You haven't won a national title in 70 years.
It's 'cause you really suck.
Your last conference championship was 14 years ago.
Sorry, shit.
This is the 5th head coach who is bringing you back.
But they never do!
You have the most wins in college football history.
Thank you, 1800s.
Your wide receiver coach is Jim McElwain.
Naked with them shocks.
You have the largest stadium in the country.
Jingle those fucking keys.
Your head coach is a quarterback guru.
But it's raining transfers up in here.
Those who stay will be champions.
But they never are.
All right, Brandon, so we're back. It's time to look forward to the only thing that matters all year long for Ohio State fans. I don't even have to begin to talk about how important this game is. You look past the fact that Ohio State wins this game, they go to the Big Ten title game, they have a legit shot to still make the college football playoffs. All that stuff aside, it's the game. It is time to take on the one team that we spend all year looking forward to beating. A lot of us, yourself and myself included, we were brought up initially, and we weren't really on the best end of this whole rivalry game. You know, far too often we saw Ohio State go and play Michigan at the end of the year, and it ruined really, really good teams, years that they had going. Obviously, that all changed when Jim Tressel was hired into Columbus. And, you know, Ohio State put a new emphasis back on winning this game. Obviously, as it progressed, Urban Meyer takes over the program. He understands the rivalry. He keeps that alive. And not just the talent level that has been different between the two teams the last couple of years. It still feels like this game is important again to Ohio State players, to coaches, back to where it should be, right? The emphasis that the fans put on it. So all that stuff aside, you can look and throw, you know, what's the cliche? You can throw records and, you know, everything out the window. Michigan is a very good football team right now. They realistically, as we've mentioned on the show multiple times this season, if you take out the first quarter of the Notre Dame game, Michigan is undefeated this year. And they have not really been as challenged as even Ohio State has. And coming into the season, that's a bit of a shock because we really thought that Ohio State was going to obviously play better and be better than they are. But Michigan is a damn good football team, and they are playing damn good football. Their offense, you know, Shea Patterson's leading the way, the transfer in from Ole Miss. He's averaging 200. As a team, they're averaging 200 yards a game, about 2 touchdown passes. They're getting about 5 yards a carry on 219 yards per game on the ground. Another 2.5 touchdowns that they're getting there. So their offense can move the ball. They're not a Texas Tech air raid kind of offense. They still want to run the ball. They also, like Maryland, utilize a fullback. They utilize their tight ends. Patterson, like I said, he has 2,100 yards, 65% completions on the season, 18 touchdowns, 4 picks. And I still can't say this guy's name the right way. Is it Karan Higdon? Okay. He's got 1,100 yards on the ground. He's averaging 5.3 yards per carry. He's got 10 touchdowns. They've got a fullback who only averages about 2.5 yards a carry, but he's got 6 scores this season. And then you got a couple wide receivers, Donovan Peoples-Jones, 475 plus yards, 7 touchdowns. Nico Collins has 4 touchdowns. And their tight end, I think he was second on the team in receiving yards. Zach Gentry, converted quarterback, 475 yards. He's averaging just under 16 yards a catch. So Michigan has a good offense. They can move the ball, and they will move the ball on Saturday. But what's your initial thought on the Michigan offense, and what should Ohio State fans be worried about? Because let's be realistic. If the defense that we've seen a couple of times this year shows up, we could be in some serious trouble.
Yeah, I mean, last Saturday did not do anything to make us feel good about what Ohio State's defense can do to stop Michigan's offense. Michigan's not going to do anything flashy. I mean, we all know that. They're going to line up with a couple of tight ends. They're going to line up with fullback. They're going to overload a side. They're going to run the ball. And that's kind of what Maryland did early on and how they got their big runs is they would overload one side. I think they were like motioning their tackle to the other side, or it was some crap like that. And then they would run a cutback to the opposite way. But I think Maryland showed what you need to do against Ohio State is just overload them with big bodies, the Ohio State for front seven. We've spoken time and time again for week after week that Tough Borland and Pete Werner cannot get off a block. So that's all you got to do is just get a big body into their smaller bodies, and it opens up a lot of holes. And I think Maryland opened that. I mean, Michigan was going to do that regardless, but I think it's going to give Michigan's offense more confidence, especially after that Michigan State game, that they're going to be able to kind of just, we don't give a shit. You know that we're going to line up with, 4,000 people on the line of scrimmage. We're going to run it right at you, and you're not going to stop us. So I think that's where we're at with Michigan, and it's all going to come down to if they can stop the run or not. I mean, Higdon's been on a roll. I mean, he's rushed for 100+ yards in 8 of the 10 games this year. The only ones that, ironically, that he has not run for 100 yards was the very first game against Notre Dame, where I think he had like 80-something yards. And this last game against Rutgers, he actually got pretty much shut down against Rutgers. I forget what
Rutgers
the stats
or
are.
Indiana?
Or it was Rutgers 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
That shut him down. You're right. Rutgers was with Penn State this weekend, right? Yeah. So, it was Rutgers 2 weeks ago, and I think Higdon was like 15 for 30 or something like that. So Rutgers actually did a good job of shutting them down. How much of that was just Michigan not really paying attention to Rutgers? Who knows? Higdon's going to be their guy. And right behind Higdon, you got Chris Evans, who was injured a little bit earlier. He has 370 yards on the season. Only 198 of those yards are during Big Ten play. And then behind him, you got True Wilson, who's actually been coming on quite a bit here these last couple of weeks and having 50+ yard outings. Then you factor in Shea Patterson being able to actually run the ball too. So I don't think he's a dynamic runner. I mean, he's not going to be Adrian Martinez type of guy, but I mean, he could easily, he's kind of in that pogrom role where he can move out of the pocket and he can run and he can hurt you, but it's not his primary way to do it. So, I mean, it all comes down to that front seven stopping the run, and I'm just not too confident with Pete Werner and Tough Borland back there that they're able to stop that run.
Well, and the big change here also is between Patterson and Pigram is Patterson can actually throw the ball. So that's something else you have to take into account, right?
Yeah, I mean, but it's weird because Patterson can throw the ball, but then you think about it too, like 5 of his 10 games this season, he's been under 200 yards throwing. So a lot of it, I mean, Michigan knows he can throw the ball. He can hurt teams throwing the ball, but it's still going to come down to the rushing. And I don't think, especially in this game with Ohio State's offense, who's going to be the best offense that Michigan's played all year, I still don't expect Shea Patterson to throw the ball too much. I think Michigan's going to try to pound the ball with Higdon and with Chris Evans, and they're going to try to control the clock. They're going to limit any turnovers that there may be. I mean, Higdon's not going to fumble it too much, and you can count on Chris Evans and even True Wilson. They're all like juniors and seniors. So you've got the experience there. I think Michigan's really just going to line up and pound it down Ohio State's throat. And you'll see some throwing here and there, a lot like Maryland did, where it's, to chuck the ball downfield to kind of spread out the defense a little bit. And then he will connect on some of those. But I just really would be shocked if Shea Patterson throws for more than about 200 or 220 yards. And Michigan just really focuses on that run the ball and keep the ball out of Ohio State's offense's hand.
Well, and that's part of the thing there too is, yeah, he's only averaging the 200 or so yards per game, and he's been under it a couple times, like you mentioned. But also in those games, if you go back and look at him, he hasn't needed to throw the ball, right? Like Saturday, Dwayne Haskins had 400 yards passing because Ohio State needed to throw 400 yards, right? They needed to keep up with it. Michigan hadn't been in that situation this year. So I don't know that necessarily – look, I don't think Patterson's better than Dwayne Haskins. Don't take it that way. But I don't think Shea Patterson has been asked to be Dwayne Haskins yet this year, and that's part of that reasoning also.
Well, and sticking with the pass game, I mean, you've got some good wide receivers there with Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, he's the big guy, but I mean, the one that I'm just scared shitless of is Tariq Black, who was their number one guy coming into this year. He came back about 4 games ago. He really hasn't done anything. He's kind of getting into the playing shape type of thing. They were saving him for this game. And I'm really worried about Tariq Black being at full strength outside with Donovan Peoples-Jones against corners that have looked like crap. I mean, usually we can kind of rely on the defensive backs because the linebackers have looked so bad. But, I mean, Kendall Sheffield has looked absolutely horrible these past couple of weeks. Damon Arnett's looked horrible these past couple of weeks. And those are 2 of your main guys. Okudah seems like he's kind of fallen out of the rotation a little bit. I mean, like, he played a lot, but he's usually the nickel type of guy. Like, you don't see him early on. So I'm kind of worried of what Tariq Black and Donovan Peoples-Jones will do. And it really wouldn't surprise me if Michigan came out and tried to throw the ball early, get a quick 1-2 score lead, and then shift back to that run game and just kind of run the clock out. And I mean, Jim Harbaugh would be more than happy to walk out of there with like a 14-9 ugly win on Saturday. So all they need is a few scores, and they can start kind of rely on that run game.
Yep, absolutely. So now looking at the defensive side of the ball, Ohio State should be able to move the ball. I'm not going to say that Michigan's going to shut them down, but Michigan also has a pretty stout defense. They were still leading the conference both in third down conversions that they obtained and keeping their opponents from converting third downs after the Indiana game for the conference. But Michigan is giving up about 123 yards on the ground per week. They're giving up about 235 yards through the air. Obviously, look, they got some really talented guys. Devin Bush, Chase Winovich, and Josh, I can't say this guy's name, Yuki. There are 3 linebackers that are all –
sounds good to me.
Yeah, we're going to go with that. They've got some talent at the linebacker position. Obviously, Rashawn Gary, their all-world defensive lineman. He's only played in 8 games, and he's still having a big season. They've got some damn good defensive players also. Michigan's defense coming into the season, it was obvious that was going to be their strength, and we knew it, and they have lived up to that expectation. The one thing that I was a little surprised by when I was digging through this is Michigan has not really been great at forcing turnovers. They've only had 11 interceptions for the season, which is about 9 more than Ohio State's had. But they've broken up 32 passes, and they've only forced 3 fumbles. So, you would think a defense as good as they are would be better at forcing the turnovers, but that just hadn't been the case. But they still are able to shut down opposing offenses. So what are your thoughts on the Michigan defense, and what should Ohio State watch for, and what should Ohio State try to do?
Well, I mean, it's going to be hard to score points on Michigan, and you've seen some struggles from Ohio State these past couple of weeks. I don't really attribute those to very much because Ohio State was purposefully trying to get the run game going. Like, they could have went out there and let Dwayne Haskins throw for 400 or 500 yards and put up a lot of points. But they need to get that run game going for teams like Michigan, and if they make it to the playoffs against Clemson and Bama and stuff. So I'm not worried about the struggles the past couple of weeks. I thought this Saturday was a good look at what Ohio State's offense can be right now, even with how good they look and the talent that they have on the offensive side. Michigan's got a lot of talent, like you were saying. I mean, they're only giving up 13.5 points per game. Most points they've given up in a game all season was 24 to Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame had 17 of those in the first 5 minutes.
Felt like it, yeah.
Outside of that, I mean, they gave up 20 to Southern Methodist, which a bunch of that was garbage time. 21 to Maryland and 20 to Indiana, which if we're going to give Ohio State credit for looking forward to Michigan, and that's why they kind of look like shit, I think we got to do the same thing to Michigan for giving up 20 points to the Hoosiers and only beating them 31-20. I think they're kind of in the same boat as the Ohio State players were. So really outside of that Notre Dame game and Maryland, I mean, teams are struggling to score against Michigan. Wisconsin only scored 13. Granted, Hornibrook was out during that game. Penn State only scored 7. Michigan State scored 7. The Cornhuskers, who have a good offense, granted it was early on and they really hadn't figured their shit out yet, but they only scored 10.
And didn't Martinez get hurt in that game?
I feel like he did pretty early, and that's where what are they down to? Their backup's the 7th string quarterback or something. Yeah. So I mean, Michigan has benefited as we go down the list from a lot of opportunistic timing. I know Trace McSorley got hurt against them. Wisconsin was with their backup. Northwestern had just had Jeremy Larkin's stuff go down. So, I mean, it was kind of opportunistic for them, but they've got a damn good defense. And I think their takeaways are down because they know how good their front seven is, and they kind of play that keep everything in front of you type of defense and let Chase Winovich and Rashawn Gary and Devin Bush and all those guys just attack the offenses. And that's why it's kind of down. Ohio State is going to struggle on Saturday. I think they'll be able to score some points, but this will easily be the best defense they faced all year.
Yep. Absolutely. No doubt in my mind that this will be the toughest test for the Ohio State offense. And I mean, I've led on before and I'll let on again. I am rightfully so, I believe, concerned about this game. So looking at some of the keys to the game, obviously it's going to be important for Ohio State to be able to move the ball. And the one that's really stood out this year when Ohio State has struggled moving the ball, Dwayne Haskins has had his off games, and when he's on, he's able to move the ball at will. So we're going to keep with it. Dwayne Haskins over or under 60% on the completion percentage?
Oh, man. I'm going to go under on this one. I think it's going to be a tough game for him.
I'm going to go over, but it's not going to be anywhere near the yardage that we've seen a lot of times when he goes over. So it could be one of those deals like another 29 of 39, but it's going to be 250 yards or something like that. It's not going to be a huge stat game. So rushing yards, obviously Ohio State has put a lot of emphasis on the running game the last couple of weeks. Does Ohio State get 150 yards rushing against Michigan?
I think they do.
I do too.
Yeah. I mean, yep. I think Ohio State, just like I mentioned, Michigan's going to want to do, I think Ohio State is going to want to limit the amount of time that their defense is on the field. And I think they're really going to put an emphasis on running the ball. And I think this will be another game where even you see Dwayne Haskins have 15 carries or so. And I think this is the type of game where you're going to need that.
I don't want to give any spoiler alerts on my next pick here, but this is going to be an Urban Meyer influenced offensive game plan, and we know how that goes. So you have multiple heavy reliance drives on the running game. So I see the rushing attack going here. Now, what that in turn does is my next one here is any receiver going over 100 yards. We had 2 of them last week. I've already led on. I don't think we get it because there's going to be such an emphasis on trying to run the ball and control the clock. But Do you think Ohio State has a 100-yard receiver this week?
I'm going to go with yes. I really think at some point they're going to make an emphasis to put the ball in Paris Campbell's hands, and I think they're going to have to do that Saturday. I think if Paris Campbell does not have 100 yards of total offense, receiving, rushing, whatever you want to say, and he probably needs more, about 150, Ohio State's going to lose this game. And I think Paris Campbell needs to be allowed to be the playmaker that he can be.
Okay. Flipping to the other side of the ball, defensive line. Does the defensive line have 2 sacks on Saturday?
I think they do. I think Chase Young could probably have it by himself. He's shown in big games, he kind of steps up. He's kind of looked a lot more. So I'm going to say they could, but I worry about it just because I don't think Michigan's going to throw the ball a lot.
I'm going to say that they get it, but it's going to not just be Chase Young. It's also going to be a combination of Young and Draymond Jones taking over. So Draymond Jones has really started to establish himself as the leader on that defensive line, as you mentioned earlier. And at some point, he's going to take over just like he has in multiple games this season. So I think it's going to be a little split there. Moving back to the linebackers, do we have any linebacker that gets 10 tackles?
I will say if Ohio State does not have a linebacker with at least 10 tackles, there is no chance they are winning this game. With that said, I don't think they have a linebacker that has 10 tackles this week.
Is that a spoiler alert for your Schmidt pick there, bud?
It might be.
I don't know that I can say that Ohio State has to have 10 tackles to win from a linebacker, mainly because I could see this being a rotation kind of a thing where you'll possibly get some guys rotating back in and you'll have some that are, 8.5, and his backup has 4 or 5. But I'm going to take the over that not a single guy does not get 10. Looking at the defense as a whole, does the defense force a turnover on Saturday?
It's supposed to be rainy, right? I'm going to go with yes. I mean, it's supposed to be rainy. I think they'll fumble somewhere. Hopefully it doesn't rain. Okay,
we'll take over there. Last one for you, making a return appearance. Does Drew Chrisman average 46 yards per punt?
Under,
really?
I just always go with that with him because, most of the time he punts the ball from, the 50 or the 45. Very rarely does Ohio State, punt the ball, right away outside of, some of the Michigan State type stuff. So I'm going to go under.
Okay.
Doesn't mean he's not going to have a great game.
Yeah, I think he's going to be important again. So any last things on Michigan you want to get on here before we pause, take our Son of a Schmitz and get our Schmidt picks out of the way? No?
Nothing.
All right, man. Let's take a quick break. We come back. We will get into the end of the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for your favorite weekly segment.
Son of a Schmidt.
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 All right, dude. So it is time for our Son of a Schmidt segment and our Schmidt picks. This is always a good chance to really get out and rail on someone, obviously. So if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and start this week. Is that cool with you?
Go for it, buddy.
Perfect. So my Son of a Schmidt this week, I am going directly back to something that was posted on June 13th, 2018. In particular, this is referencing a reporter that covers the Ohio State day-to-day beat, and something that I just need to complain about a little bit here because, quite frankly, this is the kind of stuff we don't want to see online. This reporter is a guy by the name of Tom Orr. He works for a company called the Ozone Communications. You guys may have heard of him. But my Son of a Schmidt is referencing, did Woody Hayes really say, I couldn't go for 3? Now, we all know the story, obviously, with it being Ohio State-Michigan week. The story goes that back in 1968, Ohio State was up big on Michigan. Ohio State goes for a 2-point conversion after a touchdown. And then after the game, somebody asked Woody why he went for 2 there, and he says, well, because I couldn't go for 3. So The article that Tom posted, and the reason that I'm ranting on this one right here is it really didn't go the way that the urban legend has evolved to say. You go through some of it, and Tom does a really good job of breaking this down. I'm not saying anything bad about Tom's reporting. Don't take it that way, because this is actually really good. And I'm sure just knowing the way that these things go, this will probably be reposted out there. So follow the Ozone's, Twitter accounts and whatever. You'll probably see this referenced at some point. But unfortunately, it really didn't go the way that we all love to think that the story went and that we love to tell the story. So my son of a Schmidt this week is, quite frankly, Tom, stop ruining these urban legends that we love and that we've all lived with that have made this rivalry what it is, because this is what makes college football so fun, these legends like this and the traditions and the things that go with it. So, son of a Schmidt.
Damn it, Tom. It's my turn?
That's all you, man.
Man, I really don't think there's anything else that we should be railing about this week besides this one thing. My son of a Schmidt is going out to the whole state of Michigan.
The whole state of Michigan.
We don't give a damn for you.
Not one.
You guys have been irrelevant for so long. You've been getting your asses kicked by any good team out there. You don't win championships. You don't beat your rivals. You don't develop quarterbacks as much as you think you do. Yeah, Tom Brady's good. When did he last play? Shut up.
And you didn't develop him.
Yeah. I'm just – Michigan, you've got a good team. I will admit that. But I am tired of Michigan fans already. Like, you guys have been silent for 15 years. Not a peep from you. And all of a sudden you think you're good because you get your ass kicked by Notre Dame, and then you roll through a pretty shitty out-of-conference schedule after that, and then into the Big Ten. And now all of a sudden you think you can text all your Buckeye friends. You guys can jump into people's mentions. Anytime an Ohio State person says anything on Twitter, you've got 4 or 5 Michigan people sitting there talking shit about them. It's time to end this shit now. And I wrote about that last year with Penn State. The circus stops now. I think the circus is supposed to stop right now for you guys. You guys have never proven anything. Most of you people that are Michigan fans that are even on Twitter have never even seen a successful Michigan team. You've never seen them win more than a fluke game against Ohio State here and there. It's, at least become decent and then work your way up to thinking that you're one of the top tier teams. Like, we don't give a shit about the 1800s. Nobody around here does. No other team does. You guys can talk about your, most wins in college football history, but shut up. Nobody cares about that. So this week is the week that you guys get to put up or shut up. You guys brought in a SEC backup to be your savior. You guys brought in a coach that's supposed to, turn you guys around. It's just not happening. And I think that we're all tired of your shit already, and that Michigan just needs to go back into their little 7-5 hole that they came from, and we can all move on with our lives. And maybe someday you guys will be up on Ohio State's level, but even if you win on Saturday, it's still not there. Next year, you guys are going to go back to sucking. Shea Patterson's going to be gone. Higdon's going to be gone. Everyone's going to be gone. Devin Bush, Chase Winovich, Rashawn Gary. So, you know what? You guys will probably win on Saturday. I'll go another spoiler alert there. Doesn't mean that you're back, just like it didn't mean Penn State was back when they fluked the shit out of a win in Columbus a few years ago. So, son of a Schmidt, just be gracious winners this season, you guys have a good team. Nobody's saying that. But just shut the hell up and enjoy your season, because next year, when Ohio State brings everyone back, when Penn State is another year of experience with Tommy Stevens at quarterback, who's probably a better quarterback than Trace McSorley, when Wisconsin's healthy and has another year of Jonathan Taylor, it's going to be a very shitty season for you next year. So just shut up and enjoy your time this year. Son of a Schmidt, I hate you, Michigan.
That works. So, yeah, I don't give a damn for them. So, exactly.
Nope.
All right, man. So, before we move into our last little pause and we go to our Schmidt picks, I just want to throw this out there as a reminder that you led into it. You touched on it at the beginning of the show. We've kind of mentioned it before. I would fully expect to see something from those of us on the Ozone Radio Network and some of our Hayes and Cannon and Ozone guys and gals later this week, because we are all getting together. So I fully expect to see something like a Facebook Live or some short Vine-style videos or something. So just once again, getting ready for this game. So, all right, man. So let's pause real quick for station identification. We come back, we'll go over the Schmidt picks, we'll get the final thoughts, and we'll close this one out.
You are listening to the Sons of Schmidt podcast on the Ozone Radio Network, presented by Hayes and Cannon. The ORN is the online radio home of the Buckeyes Sloopcast, the Silver Bullets podcast, Across the Field, and, of course, the Sons of Schmidt, with new episodes broadcast every day of the week. For more information, go to www.theozone.net. And now, back to the show.
All right, Brandon. So just want to touch on this one as we get into it. Last week, right when we were getting ready to record and we were going through this, you sent me a text message. You wanted to add the Central Florida and Cincinnati game onto our Schmidt picks list. And I'll be completely honest, somehow I missed it when I was looking through them, but it wasn't on there. The only game that I missed last week was the Central Florida-Cincinnati game. We both went ahead and just said to hell with it and rode with the Fighting Fickles. Obviously, they came up short. But because of that last week, you'd go to 47-20, and I caught back up with you. We're at 46-21 here in the Texas side of the show. You had Cincinnati, Northwestern, Notre Dame, Clemson, Texas, Arizona State, and Ohio State. Obviously, Northwestern, Notre Dame, Clemson, Texas, and Ohio State won. UCF won, so we both missed that one, and I had the Oregon-Arizona State game picked correctly. So you got a one-game lead going into the last week of the regular season. So this week, Rivalry Week, it's the big game week. Obviously, we don't have all of the final rankings out because we are recording a little early. But let's start and go back to Florida. Let's look at Central Florida at Southern Florida. Games in Tampa. What do you got here?
I'm going to go with Central Florida. I'm tired of picking against them. And, of course, this will be the week that they lose. But I'm going with Central Florida.
I'm going with Central Florida also. Next, with Big 12 title game implications on the line, Oklahoma travels to Morgantown to take on West Virginia, who's coming off of an upset loss at Oklahoma State. What do you got in this game?
I'm going to go with the Sooners. I have not at any point this year thought that West Virginia was a good team. They're home, so that'll help, but I think Oklahoma is going to win this game.
I am not impressed with West Virginia at all. The only good player that they really have is their quarterback, and he's not really all that great, so I'm also taking the Sooners here. Next one, again, with more college football playoff implications regarding the Buckeyes. Washington travels to Washington State. This one's going to determine who plays for the Pac-12 North as the representative for the Pac-12 North in the Pac-12 championship game. What do you got here, the Huskies or the Cougars?
I'm going to go with Washington in this game. Just like West Virginia, I'm not a big fan of Washington State. I've seen them a few times. Yeah, they're fun to watch, but I think the Huskies with a healthy Myles Gaskin and Jake Browning and their defense, I think they can slow down Washington State enough. I'm going to go with Washington on this one.
So last night I was up late and I watched some of the Washington State-Arizona game, and I realized two things. One, Arizona is really not good, And 2, Washington State is not very good either. So I'm going to take the Huskies here also. Next game, we have Auburn going to Alabama. What do you got in this one?
Alabama. You just can't go against them right now. They're a damn death machine.
Yep.
And Auburn's not good.
Auburn's not very good. The game's at home for the Tide, so I'm going to take the Tide here also. Next rivalry game is South Carolina goes to number 2 Clemson.
Clemson. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think this will be a close game.
I don't either. One of the only games that had teams that were ranked in the top 25 that are playing again this week coming off of wins. Utah State at Boise State. We're going to test your knowledge here. What do you got in this one?
Utah State. Boise State, every time I seem to go against them this year in our pick 'em, like they win, but I think Utah State's a better team this year.
I literally know nothing about either of these teams. I've maybe seen some highlights of either of them all season. So just for the fun of it, I'm going to go opposite of you, and I'm going to go with Boise State in this one. So next one, again, this one's kind of up your alley here. Arizona State at Arizona.
I got to go with Sparky on this. Right, they got knocked out of the Pac-12 South running with their loss to Oregon, but Arizona's just really not good this year, and I think Arizona State should be able to win this one.
I would have potentially taken the Wildcats in this game, but like I said, I watched them play last night, and my God, they are just terrible. So I'm going to take Arizona State in this one also. Now, for what may very well be the first time in 3 seasons, approximately 60 episodes of the Sons of Schmidt, we have a Michigan-Ohio State game that's going to be an actual game. What do you got going on here, man? Who you taking? What's your final score?
Man, like I said, I am scared of how Ohio State's front 7 will respond to Michigan and their running game. I think we've seen at times Ohio State have a competent defense, and there are times where they step up and they look like they can stop the run, and Tough Borland fills the correct gaps, and Pete Warner makes plays, and Malik Harrison's able to make plays. But I think Michigan's just going to overload their line and probably towards Pete Warner's side, and they're going to try to run towards Tough Borland and Pete Warner as much as possible. That seems to be what teams are doing. They want to stay away from Malik Harrison. And unfortunately, I think Michigan's going to win this game 41-27.
41-27. That is, as far as I can recall, the first time in 3 seasons that we have not taken Ohio State to win a game.
It probably is. I mean, they have more talent than every team that they face, and they have more talent than Michigan. I will say that right now, but that defense, not on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, it's been rather shocking the way the Ohio State defense has played. I want so badly to take Ohio State in this game, and I know that this is going to work out in Ohio State's favor as far as having the underdog card to play. And I know Urban Meyer emphasizes this game, and it just feels like there have been things done this season to really kind of set up other things that we haven't seen, and I think we will see them in the Michigan game. Unfortunately, my eyes won't let my heart win this battle. The way that Ohio State has played this season, I just don't think Ohio State wins on Saturday. So I'm going to take Michigan in this game also. I think it's going to be extremely close. I'm thinking of a 37-35 type of game. The defense for Michigan is much better than Ohio State's defense, but the offense for Ohio State, I think, can score when they need to, and they very well could come out and win this game. But if I had to put money on it, and if I had to make my pick, I'm going with Michigan 37-35.
It's like a funeral around here.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that I like doing. I feel dirty, and even though I showered right before we got on the air, I'm going to have to go take another shower now. I kind of need some bleach. So
Yeah, and that'll be a whole new video that is posted.
Yeah, that one will be the first video we post. So now the tradition of what we've been doing the last couple of weeks, obviously you took Ohio State to not win, but what happens on Saturday for Ohio State to win this game now?
In order for Ohio State to win this game, they really need to focus on stopping the run. And that may cause the defensive coaching staff and Urban Meyer to kind of go away from some loyalties. I think, as we've mentioned numerous times, they really need to beef up that defensive line. They need to allow the linebackers to move in space a little bit more. I think you've got to look at some of the bigger linebackers size-wise, the Dante Bookers, the Justin Hilliards that have a little more beef on them. They can go up against, Michigan putting 10 people on the line, and just kind of pushing their way forward. I think they really need to stop the run. That is the biggest thing. I mean, If they can stop the run, if they can limit their penalties and limit the missed tackles, I mean, they should be okay. I mean, Higdon isn't a big guy. He's not going to run over guys. But I think they just really need to play sound football. And we just haven't seen that from them. But I think that's what Ohio State needs from their defense. The offense can do whatever they want, and I think they will be fine. They will score enough points to win a normal game. It's just that front seven needs to actually step up, and it may involve bringing in some of those backups if that actually happens.
I think this is one of those games. I think you touched on a little bit. It's not just size at linebacker; it's also size at defensive line that Ohio State needs to really work on some more, which we kind of saw. It feels like they went away from a little bit, but I would not be surprised to see Ohio State win this game. Ohio State's offense can score at will, and if the defense can just slow down Michigan enough that Ohio State has a chance, Ohio State wins. I just don't know that the defense can do that. So, yeah, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little worried about this one, so we'll go with that. Now, the one thing I will tell you is I've been in Columbus 3 different times for Ohio State-Michigan games. This will be my 4th time. Ohio State is undefeated in those games. So I'm bringing all the luck I got for you. So
well, and I've never seen Ohio State lose to Michigan live either. So we're doing good. Go.
We're doing what we can. All right, brother, any last little bits of stuff you want to get on here before we wrap this one out and go, or are you good to go, man?
No, Muck Fishigan.
That's a good one. All right, brother. So let's tie this one off. I will see you later this week. Look forward to getting together with you guys. And everybody else will be tailgating on Saturday. We'll see y'all around the stadium. So go Bucks. OH.
I-O.
Buckeye Nation, make sure you're getting the latest news and episodes from the Sons of Schmidt podcast. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Sons of Schmidt. You can follow us on Twitter at Sons of Schmidt, or email the show, sonsofschmidt@gmail.com. And look for us on Hayes and Cannon at theozone.net.